Hi everyone, my name is Isabel Pruitt, and today I'll be sharing with you my experiences as a grower in my class Greenhouse Management 1, taught by Dr. Farazi at UGA. So initially, my partner and I, Beverly Cobb, we were tasked with taking care of echinaceas. So we put one plug per 6-inch pot, and we actually planted 90 of these plants. So when we first started out, we just had to make sure that everything was organized, that all of the emitters, as in our irrigation system, that they were all settled and that every pot was getting adequately watered and that there was nothing that was being dried out. And if we noticed any of those things, we checked the irrigation system, we checked the dosatron, as well as took out the emitter that was faulty and inserted a new one. Also, just a side note, I ended up being the only person to continue out in my group. My partner ended up dropping the class. So, this is my partner, Beverly, in this picture that you see. So, as I said a little bit before, we had emitters. So, um, I would say that formulating the irrigation system was not the easiest. We had to calculate the length of the benches. Dr. Frazzi, he purchased hoses for us, as well as these emitters, which are about 6 to 12 inches long. Um, and so it was a drip irrigation system, but we had to individually cut all of these hoses and then punch holes into them so that we could stick the emitters. And all of our plants that we were irrigating were using this system. So, just a little bit of stuff on this slide. As I said, the struggles were trying to adequately poke holes into these tubes, um, and troubleshooting a little bit was just making sure that everything that the system was working every single week. We had to disconnect and reconnect a few times, and also just move around some emitters if we had none left and we needed our plants to be watered. But I would say overall, it wasn't terribly difficult. And once we actually had the system up and running, it was deemed very effective. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our poinsettias because this was our main crop. Um, we had about 300 of them, and we applied a fertilizer as well as a plant growth regulator, which was Psychocell. So because our our plant sale date was on a very specific day, November 27th, we had to make sure that all of our crops were uniform and that everything came into their red or white color about a week before this time or a little bit earlier. So we use Psychocell to encourage lateral branching, and we also pinched a few leaves from the top a few weeks after we planted them, the plugs, in order to stunt their growth a little bit because we didn't want them to be huge. Um, and then another big thing with these, because they're very much for ornamental use, during the holidays, everyone loves these plants. So we had to monitor them a lot and take off some dead leaves that either had necrosis or any pathogens that we observed. I personally didn't observe that much, but I think that some other of my classmates did. But it was mostly just dead foliage that we had trouble with. And then our crop rotations. So even though I started off on the echinaceas with my partner, I was in charge of basically every single crop that we had. So each week I would have to monitor irrigation of the Gerber daisies, the succulents, the mums, all of them. We had 6 different ornamental crops that were not poinsettias, and then the poinsettias. So it was a good amount of stuff. And since my partner was not with me for half the semester, I had help from some of my other classmates, and we kind of just, even though we were necessarily put onto a specific bench, which we measured pH and EC for every week, we all helped each other out. And so that was one of the things that I really appreciated about my classmates and about this class was that it was really a combined effort, and you never felt like you were alone. So yeah, we had a pH and EC document that we would put all of these numbers in every Friday. And I observed that a lot of our EC was definitely low. Um, and also some of our pH, but it wasn't terrible so that one of our crops was completely taken out. And we talked about fertilizer and just regulating all of those things in class in order to increase those numbers when needed. Also, I had one week where I was in charge of the Gerber daisies and they were flowering way too early before our sale. So me and my professor, we talked about possibly adding a PGR, but then decided against it because it was on the cusp. It was marginally not important in order for the sale. But I personally think that we should have done it because when I took my Gerber daisies home, they ended up wilting very fast, even though I provided them with the adequate care that they needed. So what went well in our class? I really think, as I kind of mentioned earlier, the communication in class, we utilize a Excel sheet and GroupMe, especially the GroupMe, just to monitor who is going into the greenhouse at what times, what are they doing, is the dosatron working, is the irrigation system turned on, or is it faulty, things like that. And also just collaboration with my classmates, talking to them about okay, so you had the Gerber daisies bench last week and I had the succulents. What do you need me to do and what do I need to do for these crops that I'm now taking care of? So everyone was very much forthcoming about helping each other out and telling each other what we needed. And I feel like everyone had their different strengths in our class. So it kind of fused together um, in a very beautiful collaborative effort. And then lastly, obviously, Dr. Farazi's expertise and willingness to help us. He was amazing. And yeah, I've just learned so much from him from this class, and I'm very grateful. And then just some little recommendations. We did have a little bit of blank sections in our ELC or in our Excel document for PH and EC. So when I was doing my final project, I had some gaps for that. Um, but I mean that's just kind of on the students. That's not our professor's fault. And then our plant sale, I think we could have done a little bit better with marketing and signs because it was just a difficult location overall. Um, but that's just a minor thing. And then just making sure this is on ourselves as students, knowing what to tell our customers if they're asking us about a specific plant, um, like the care requirements and how long they're going to live, where to plant them, lighting requirements, everything like that. But overall, that's just me being nitpicky, but I think we had a great time. And then, yeah, I just want to say thank you for a great semester. I learned so much in this class, and I very much value the education that I gained from these past few months. So, thank you, Dr. Farzi and the UGA Horticulture Department. And I hope to see you guys at the plant sale next year.